Alright, so Tom Holland has finally done it. He is the first Spider-Man to make it to 4 solo movies. But I think the question on everybody's mind is, does this Spider-Man movie hold up? And is the MCU still able to make Spider-Man movies that are interesting? And for my expectations going into this movie, I was really hoping that we were going to get a more Peter Parker focused story, especially with how the last movie ended. Or at least focus on the idea that Peter and Spider-Man are conflicting against each other. And I will say, I think this movie executed on that point, but also, this is one of the most put together superhero movies I have seen in a long time. But before we jump into my non-spoiler review, my name is Ben James, and if this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Today's review, we're going to talk about the story, the action, and if this movie is worth the watch. Because in a movie market of overly complicated superhero movies and films that don't really connect that well, a lot of people have been looking at Spider-Man Brand New Day as the last chance for the MCU to get back on track. And that is a big bill to front, and you know what? Spider-Man does a good job of not only making MCU fans happy, but really focusing on the Spider-Man fans. And this is the first Marvel movie in a while that has every single character placement make sense or at least work to push the story forward. And the emotional storytelling of this movie was by far some of the best I have seen coming out of Marvel Studios. There was a lot of moments where I was swelling up because listen, we've been attached to these characters ever since Spider-Man Homecoming. Like we've almost been with these characters for 10 years and it shows. Not only have the characters grown up, but their acting skills have gotten way better. And that wasn't the only thing that got better, but the action in this movie was some of the best we've seen from a Spider-Man movie. And that doesn't surprise me because this team that has worked on this movie took inspiration from the Insomniac Spider-Man games, which has some of the most fine-tuning combat I've ever experienced on a superhero game, and more specifically a Spider-Man game. And not only that, we have the director of Shang-Chi who took over this film and replaced John Watts and really focused on doing everything practical. With John Watts even saying that, hey, practical web swinging just isn't it, it's gonna look like people are swinging on ropes. But director Destin Cretton didn't let this discourage him, and he did everything he could to make the swinging look the best it has, and honestly, he came through. But not only that, the way Spider-Man's maneuvering through the city, like the mobility is nuts. And everything about this movie feels far distant from what we've seen in previous Spider-Man movies, and that's a good thing. And speaking of distance, that's kind of the main theme of this movie. It's that distance that Peter is making between him, MJ, and Ned, and also just everybody on a day-to-day. He doesn't want to get close because he doesn't want to put anybody in jeopardy. And that's what I love is that theme carries over from what we saw in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like he just didn't forget about all the things that happened there. Like he is still struggling with what happened in that movie on a day-to-day basis. And that's what makes this movie slap is that like the physical threats are easy for Peter. It's the emotional threats that are the ones challenging him. And this does relate with Bruce Banner, who I think if you're going to put Hulk in this movie, they did a really good job of placing him perfectly where he needs to be. Because, you know, the Hulk deals with the same problem. It's the Bruce Banner and Hulk not being able to work together and constantly being in fear that he's going to lose control. And while you have this great inclusion of the Hulk, we also have a great inclusion of Sadie Sink's character, which don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it, who she is, but let's just say it's amazing. Like just her power alone, which again is shown in the trailer, of being able to infiltrate people's minds, that is the one villain Peter does not want in his life right now when he's dealing with all of this emotional weight. And it's amazing to see this because not only is the performance great, but seeing these fresh abilities and this new interesting threat that we haven't really seen Peter ever deal with, also tied in with the complexity of Peter dealing with his physical changes as well. It just makes this movie feel way more thought out and complex and way more impactful to the viewer. And it makes it interesting because Sadie Sink is able to infiltrate the mind of any person in New York. And that's a point I want to touch on as well. This is the best we've seen New York in any Spider-Man movie. It actually feels like a character itself. Like you have Peter, you know, actually interacting with the people who live in this city, working alongside with the police as well. Like, we kind of got a hint of that in behind the scenes of Far From Home, but they cut it from the movie. But they have finally committed to this idea that New York backs Spider-Man no matter what. Kind of similar to what we saw in Spider-Man 2 with Tobey on the train. But now we're seeing it in the MCU with a Spider-Man we've spent 4 movies with. And with this being said in New York, I mean, obviously, a lot of heroes and anti-heroes reside in New York, which gave them an opportunity to work in the Punisher played by Jon Bernthal. Like, and I can't think of a better person to team Peter up with than someone who has a completely different mindset than him. Like, you have Peter, who is constantly looking for the best in people, paired up with the Punisher, who will off anyone who does anything wrong and thinks that nobody can be redeemed. And without delving too much into what happens in this movie, you can see that Peter does have an impact on not just the Punisher, but the people around him. And it's cool to see Punisher, a character, again, we've seen in Daredevil and his own one-short, actually have a relationship with a character who is the complete opposite of him and have this unspoken respect. And Tom Holland and Jon Bernthal's on-screen chemistry, dude, it's low-key as good as him and MJ's. Like, they're funny, their improvising is hilarious. And their dynamic just works, and every time they were on screen, the whole theater was laughing. And I know I mentioned him earlier, but Dustin Gretton, he deserves his flowers. Like, honestly, after what he did with Shang-Chi, he should have gotten a movie a lot quicker than this. But I'm so happy that Kevin Feige gave him the reins to Spider-Man and let him have fun with it. And the fact that he worked with Tom Holland hand in hand to give the fans what they want, like, it really shows. This movie felt like a love letter to Spider-Man fans. And there really is just one big criticism I have of this movie, and it has nothing to do with the team behind this, but mostly Marvel. Like, I feel like the cinematic universe of Marvel puts way too much pressure on these Spider-Man movies to set up the upcoming movies. Like, why is it that we're introducing things in this movie that, one, doesn't really feed into a Spider-Man movie, but more what the MCU is going to start working on? And granted, I understand that this is a cinematic universe and there's going to be connections. But it just feels like whenever the chips are low with Marvel, they go all in on Spider-Man and put so much pressure on these movies to do the work the MCU can't do on its own. But thankfully, this didn't affect the movie too much, and we had a director, writer, and a star who made it be one of the best movies of 2026. And Spider-Man Brand New Day just delivered on the emotional impact, letting us see a New York that loves Spider-Man, and incorporating some great performances along with some amazing action sequences, all while balancing the multiple MCU characters that were in this movie and making it work toward the overall story. And I gotta say, you guys, Spider-Man Brand New Day is 100% worth it. I mean, there's no question in my mind that you should go see this right now. I honestly think this is one of the strongest Spider-Man movies ever made because it's not just a superhero movie. Like, at the end of the day, this is way more than just another installment to the MCU. And I just feel like we're getting back to actually telling character stories first instead of having these big ensemble movies that try to put in as many cameos as possible. And I know the next movie in the MCU slot is Doomsday, and Spider-Man isn't in it, but I am excited to see him show up in Secret Wars. But you guys, that is just my opinion. What did you think of Spider-Man Brand New Day? Did it live up to the hype? And where does this movie rank in the 4 Tom Holland Spider-Man films? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe because I got weekly content posting on this channel. I actually just made a video about my rankings of all the Spider-Man movies, so go ahead and check that out. But that is going to be it for me today, you guys. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!